Hey, welcome to the channel. It's Jack, the muscle and mobility maker with Stronghold Strength and Conditioning. And today, I'm going to be showing you how to rebuild your shoulder stability after you've suffered a labral tear. But before we get into it, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Saturday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine, and it does not get better than that. So take advantage of it. Ready? Let's go ahead and dive into this one. All right, like I said, today we're gonna be talking about how to rebuild your shoulder stability after you've suffered a labral tear or a slap tear. Now, there are technically 4 different types of slap tears or labral tears that you can experience. Type 1 through 4. The majority of those are going to fall in the type 1 or type 2 category, and those are going to be the ones that we're going to be looking at really addressing here. So depending on where you're at with your shoulder stability currently with the injury that you've suffered, we're going to start with a basic structure to restore stability to the shoulder. Now, one of the most important things as far as rebuilding that stability is making sure that we are really engaging a lot of the musculature around the joint to get it to restabilize and keep it as balanced as possible. Now, this can be a process that takes time, and you're going to have to work to restore as much normal function as possible, but a big key in that stability is going to be that rotational capacity of the shoulder. So how much internal and external rotation capacity that we regain will directly impact the stability of that shoulder long term. It's also important to understand that this is going to include how our scapula are anchored and moving. So we want to be very conscious of what's happening at our scapula and even what's going on in our thoracic spinal column. So these are factors that will impact shoulder stability overall. So we want to make sure that they are being addressed and looked at to make sure that you are maximizing your potential stability that you can rebuild based off of where you're currently at and what you need to be doing to overall improve that stability in this case. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start looking at the exercises, and I'll talk you through it as we go here. All right, the first thing we're going to start to restore is that internal and external rotation strength in an isometric manner. So here I'm using a dowel. I've got my shoulder blades rolled down and back. I'm driving my elbows into the floor so they're close to my ribs. I've got my stomach engaged, my glutes tight. And if you don't listen closely here, you won't really understand what I'm doing. I'm imagining this dowel is actually 2 sticks that are glued together or magnetized together, however you want to think about it. And I'm actively trying to separate them as I activate my external rotators isometrically. So imagine trying to pull the stick apart as if it were 2 separate sticks. I'm holding this for 30 to 45 seconds as I contract. And I just want to feel those muscles really activating in my upper back, at the back of the armpit, those areas right along the shoulder blades, really getting into good activation here. So after I perform 2 to 3 sets in the beginning, up to 4 sets total of those 30 to 45 seconds, then I'm going to start to do internal rotation. So from here, I'm actively imagining that I'm jamming those 2 sticks together now. Once again, I want to kind of keep those elbows tight to my ribs, and I'm just pressing those hands with a tight grip on the stick into one another, jamming that stick against itself. So imagine, again, 2 sticks, and I'm pressing those 2 sticks together, really activating those internal rotators in an isometric manner here. From here, I'm going to turn over and go into an internally rotated position where I grab the dowel about hips distance apart and then isometrically once again hold, so I'm activating my upper back. My chin is tucked to my Adam's apple, my abs and glutes are engaged, and as I get more comfortable in this range of motion, I want to slide those hands a little bit closer together and work my way a little bit narrower on that dowel. My palms are facing down to the floor. Again, this is a 30 to 45 second hold, 3 sets total, and work on it 2 to 3 times a week. As you start to regain your strength and stability from the isometrics, we can start to add a little bit of a concentric. So from here, I'm going long once again with the externally rotated position of the shoulder, really setting my shoulder blades in a good position, getting the abs engaged, the glutes engaged, paying attention to how my core is holding. And I'm going to hold that band externally rotated, pulling over my body down low. So I'm still building some isometric strength. I can pull that band though a little bit wider here, and you'll be able to use the band as an external feedback for this. We can also bend this to about chest height and work from a little bit higher position, focusing more on the external rotation with the elbow in some flexion as well. So here I'll bring it up, I'm going to take it to my ribs, and then from there I'm going to be opening outward, elbows narrow to the wrists in this position. Once again, holding that band, 30 to 45 seconds is our time, 2 to 3 times a week. Build these up gradually to where you can feel the movement comfortably with less pain or discomfort. Next, we're going to start to work our upper back in a prone position where we're able to start to move a little bit more towards shoulder height. So here I'm going to start performing T's with my head resting on a yoga block, glutes engaged, abs engaged, thumbs pointing back behind me. I want to focus on retracting the scapula, connecting them to my spinal column, giving a nice tight hug of my upper back there, and pulling from there to engage the posterior shoulder with that T shape right at shoulder level. Here we can go about 10 reps, building up to 15 as you become more comfortable and stronger at it. Then from there, we can also move into a W position, okay? So here we're bending the elbows in a bit of a field goal. As I perform this W, I want to again focus on my scapula retracting, pulling them down and back together. And I want to focus on not reaching my hand back. So I want to keep my wrist neutral as I bring that forearm up and make sure that it is my shoulders that are doing the work and not my wrists or forearms trying to compensate. Next, we can build some more stability around that chest and shoulder height, starting in a low range here by just doing some circles on a stability or Swiss ball. So here I'm keeping my scapula down and back, my arm is as straight as I can keep it, and I'm just rotating through a range of motion in both directions, playing with what feels comfortable, what's a little bit challenging to that range of motion, and just again working 10 to 15 reps in each direction, gradually building up that stability as I lean on that ball a little bit. To take this another step further, I'm going to actually move that ball up to a wall. I'm leaning into that ball, keeping it pressured into the wall, shoulder blade down and back as I'm working here, and you kind of see that scapular movement as I perform that circle as well in both directions. Again, 10 to 15 reps, 2 to 3 times per week. This is a gradual progression of each of these, so don't really move too quickly until you feel you've built the stability and strength that you need with the previous exercises, and we're working our way until we can get back to overhead. So from here, in that same angle, right at about chest level, I'm going to start to do some kettlebell holds. So these are again going back to some isometrics in the position. I want to let the kettlebell actually push my shoulder blade down into the floor, keep my arm locked out, and I'm just holding that with the arm locked out so that the pressure is sending straight through the shoulder into the floor. I do have my glutes engaged, my abs engaged, and I am pulling my shoulder blades down and back into the floor. I'm even pushing that back of my free arm into the ground, so I'm using that to kind of base as well to create a wide base of support. So here we're going to hold 30 to 45 seconds again, just kind of getting comfortable with this position and building the endurance to actually hold that with some stability. Again, gradually working our way higher and higher until we get to be overhead again. So from here, I can progress this by taking it into a bottoms up position and performing these holds bottoms up. Anytime we can focus on activating a more intense grip, this is also going to help increase the ability or our use of the rotator cuff. So by gripping it upside down in that bottoms up position, I am actively recruiting more of my rotator cuff muscles, and I'm focusing on actually crushing that handle in my grip right now as I hold this isometrically, so you can progress it in that manner. We can also turn this internally and externally rotated over time, and that can start to add again that rotational capacity that will help build stability. Start small, and build up your range of motion with these rotations over time as you get more comfortable with the range of motion that you're able to work through. You can also press from this position. So even a floor press can be a great way to start to rebuild that strength as you progress these kettlebell movements here. Now, once we're able to perform these relatively comfortably, we want to start to now move into the overhead position a little bit more. Here we're going to go into a portion of the Turkish get up. So I'm actually going to roll to the side. I'm using my leg on the side of the kettlebell to help push. I'm going to come directly up to my forearm on the arm that is down without the kettlebell, and I'm just allowing the shoulder to move in the socket here and learning that rotation and how to stabilize from my shoulder again in this overhead position. So we want to keep the shoulder down and back, keep it relaxed so it's not coming up into my ear, and I want to think of both scapula retracting to meet on my upper back in the middle of my spinal column as I roll up each time on this one. At this point, we're about ready to start moving into the overhead position a little bit more. So here I'm going to start with my dowel and a band to help restore that range of motion. And I want to go from the rib cage and reach overhead long, keeping the glutes engaged, abs engaged, with my shoulder blades rolled down and back into the floor. So here I'm using the band for a little bit of resistance to help cue that external rotation at the shoulder. The dowel also helps keep me in that position. I do want a nice firm grip on that dowel, making sure I'm almost crushing it again to get the rotator's cuff engaged here. And I'm reaching up as long as I can in that overhead position, with the bar coming back down to my ribs each time to reset and pull that band back over my body. I can also turn this over and go into a prone position. We'll start to work some Ys. Now we want to focus on the mid and lower trap, helping the scapula anchor as we lift the arms from the floor in this position, rebuilding stability of the upper back in more of an overhead positioning overall. So again, 10 to 15 reps to build up over time, 3 sets at a time to 4 sets, and build it from there. We're going to go into a wall roller. Okay, so here we got the roller and the band once again, kind of cueing that external rotation. As I reach up, I'm going to press and I can lean under that foam roller. Start with a small range of motion, build it up as you feel more comfortable, as you regain that range, and then from there we're going to lastly stabilize more with the kettlebell in a full overhead position in a windmill movement. So all of these overhead positions are gradual progression. Once again, you're scaling up exercise by exercise. These are not one workout that you'll perform all of these. You do want to make sure that you take time to build each one up before you progress to the next. They are specifically scaled in this way and shown in this order for a reason. All right, and there you have it. How to rebuild your shoulder stability after you've suffered a labral tear. If you like this video, make sure you let me know by clicking that big thumbs up down below, and take a moment to share this one with friends, specifically if you know they suffered a shoulder injury that tore their labrum, then pass it along their way so they can start rebuilding their shoulder stability as well. If you're somebody who would like more direct help with your shoulder injury, whether you've had a dislocation that caused the labral tear or other complications that are going on with your shoulders, then what I want you to do right now is drop down below in the description to fill out a coaching application and schedule a mobility blueprint call. This is our opportunity to get on a Zoom call together so that I could take you through a bit of an assessment and gather all the information I would need to tailor a program specific to your needs so that we can rebuild that stability and help you regain your shoulder health and start moving you in the right direction overall. So if that sounds good, take a moment right now, drop down in that description and fill out that coaching application, get your call scheduled. Last but not least, if you have not already, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Saturday I'm putting up videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance inside the gym and outside of it in your daily life and routine. And it doesn't get better than that. Welcome to the Stronghold Army. We'll see you next week.